The mission is simple: to help high achievers naturally eliminate emotional and physical obstacles so they can optimize their life for higher achievement. Welcome. You have just entered the Genesis Zone. Good day and welcome to the Genesis Zone show. This is Dr. Brian Brown. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. I know there are other places that you could be today during this time. We just appreciate you joining us. You're in for another treat today. We are bringing back somebody that's been here before. In our ongoing Wellness Warriors series, today we are joined by Sarah Alysse. Now, Sarah was with us last month and shared her origin story, how she used the pain of grief to catapult her from performing arts into holistic wellness care. Now, Sarah helps corporate executives implement fun solutions, and that's SOUL solutions, to their stressful lives so they can up-level both at home and in their careers. Her 3-pillar solutions plan used in her personalized coaching program, Enhance Your Life, examines what areas clients are missing and discovers ways to bring joy back into their daily lives. She understands the connection between the brain and the body thanks to her Bachelor of Fine Arts in Musical Theater degree and multiple certifications in STOTT Pilates, Integrative Institute of Nutrition, and National Academy of Sports Medicine. She's been most recently featured on Chicago's WGN Around Town segment as a stress management expert, and also been promoted on Business Insider, Yahoo Finance, LA Wire, The American Reporter, Kivo Daily, and the U.S. Reporter. In this Servant Leaders segment, Sarah will be sharing her expert knowledge in the area of manifesting your future. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us here on the Genesis Zone show again today as an expert. Thank you.
Thanks for having me back.
All right. Before we dive into the main focus of our interview, our audience would love to get to know you a bit better. Can you share your backstory, your professional backstory about what brought you to your specific career path and the zone of genius that you operate in right now?
For sure. So when I first started, I was in musical theater. I was a performer, but on the side, I was a Pilates instructor. I started taking classes in college so that I could get a stronger core for my dancing because that wasn't my strong suit for auditions. Acting, singing dominated, but I was like, I knew I needed to get much, much stronger and be able to move a little bit freer in my dancing. So it was a win-win. I got to meet incredible people, teach fun classes, and then I started falling in love with fitness more and more and kind of took a back seat for musical theater, played piano and sang on the side while pursuing my fitness career.
Oh, awesome. So what do you think started building that interest, where you were transitioning out of performing arts into this wellness arena? What caused you to do that?
The more I learned about the human body, the more I wanted to explore it more. It was something that wasn't easy to me as a kid. I was never the number one science girl. I was an English girl. So when I discovered that I was really good at biomechanics and understanding the body, it just made me that more excited to learn as much as humanly possible.
That's awesome. Since you've become an expert in your field, can you share an interesting or humorous story about something that happened to you since you've been in this wellness arena?
When I first started, I was at fitness formula clubs in Chicago. And this is actually one of my favorite stories because there was a troupe that came in to two fitness warm-up clubs. They were called, and you probably have heard them if you've ever been to Las Vegas, Thunder from Down Under, and they were considered the B team. And they were the ones that would travel. And one of the guys in particular was the dance captain, and he had horrible back issues. And I was like, oh, interesting. That's horrible that you're going through this. I would love to give you a complimentary session. And it was my first male client. And that was a aha moment, because people started seeing him on the equipment and they're like, I want to be able to do it. Like, even if a guy didn't admit it at first, that is the reason why they started signing up and taking sessions with me. They're like, look at this guy take time to do Pilates. Real men do Pilates. And that's how I got my first male client, was having him step on the reformer and join me for a session.
So, and then everybody sees this guy working out with you and they're like, I want to go learn from Sarah.
Yeah, and that was my first step in realizing that I love working with male clients too, because they were just so focused, because it was so new to their bodies. They didn't understand it, and I thought that was funny, because connecting it to how I felt when I first did Pilates, I was not connected to my core at all. So it was a very humble situation for me, and then seeing them go through it and then feel stronger afterwards.
So approximately how old was he when you were working with him?
He was in his early 30s.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. And starting about age 30 for guys, a lot of people don't realize it. Well, I mean, I guess a lot of people do realize it. You start losing control of that core, and it just kind of goes into your 40s and 50s and gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
But that's insightful of him, that he knew he needed to be there. And it was very foresighted of you to say, yeah, you know, I've never worked with a guy before, but let's do it. So,
yeah.
yeah. Awesome. And it sounds like you got a little extra business out of it anyway.
I did. And I literally, I credit him every single time, because if I didn't have him, I would have been too scared to work with male clients, probably.
Yeah.
I was only, because I started training right after college. I started the Pilates program at this specific location in Chicago. And so I was in learning mode 24/7. I had to learn sales. I had to create some programming and group programs, and I had some mentors, but it was just me at that space at the time.
Awesome. Awesome. So what was your major takeaway from that experience with him?
It was, I could work with anyone.
Okay, cool.
And made me not shut myself off from other things. And I think that's also why I started diving deeper into health and wellness, and trying to coach males as well as females, not just with personal training or Pilates, but stress management coaching.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. We're going to get into that here in just a minute, because I'm really curious about that. In our servant leader segments, we focus on experts who serve their clients at the highest level. And Sarah, I've done my homework. You're one of those people. When I was preparing for the show, I found some very interesting pieces of information that I'd like to ask you more details about, if that's okay.
Yeah.
In relations to manifesting your future, what exactly do you mean by this concept of manifesting your future?
So when I first heard about manifesting anything, I thought it was some sort of woo-woo thing. And you know, I'm spiritually connected to myself and, you know, my heritage, but I never thought anything of that. So when I think of manifesting now, what I've realized is you're creating your own interpretation of what's going on in your life, right? So if I'm saying a bunch of negative things, that I suck at training, I'm a horrible friend, that's what I'm going to start to believe constantly. But if I start saying, I'm an amazing friend. I'm a rock star when I teach, people who have scoliosis, and I get specific with myself of maybe it's something that is a problem area, but then I start saying it to myself, believing it, and boom, I start taking action steps to even get stronger at those areas.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've been taking into my work with my clients and myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I kind of when clients ask about manifesting, I say, when you're driving down the road, if you look too long to the left, your hands are going to go to the left. If you look too long to the right, your hands are going to go to the right, and you'll run off the road. So
Totally.
that's what manifesting is. That's what you just described so beautifully, is that if I tell myself I'm these bad things, guess what? I'm going to steer in that direction. I'm going to become those bad things. If I tell myself I'm these good things, I'm going to steer myself in that in direction of those good things. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Beautiful explanation.
Thank you.
I love your term solutions. How did you come up with that term? I mean, it's such an interesting term.
Well, it's funny because when I was first developing an idea of a podcast in my head, something I was talking to my coach, because coaches sometimes need coaches. And I was talking to her and I said, I want something, that makes sense. People do come to me for things. She's like, well, what do they come to? I was like, they come to me for solutions, but like solutions. They're always about having fun, and we're trying to implement changes that are realistic for their needs. So that's why I developed that.
So it just kind of came out of your
Solution.
mouth before you even realized what you had said.
Yeah. And then I just took, lessons and teachings from what I've already been doing and put it together into, what is that called? Not a manifestation, manifesto.
A manifesto, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in doing my homework, you apparently have 3 pillars of your solutions plan. What are those 3 pillars? Could you explain those?
Yeah, definitely. So the first one I have is self-care and stress management, understanding those and realizing what self-care for you is different for someone else. And stress can be both good and bad. Stressful situations can help you pivot to a new chapter in your life. So that's one area I focus on with my clients. The next one is the brain gut connection. And I think in part because of my father, I've always been fascinated with it, with nutrition. And also with my studies at Integrative Institute of Nutrition, I took most recently their gut health course. And I didn't realize how the brain and gut were so connected. The gut is basically your second brain. So it fascinated me, and I always train people to follow their gut. And then the third pillar is fitness, because that is always going to be a part of me, creating new ideas of what fitness means to people too. It could be functional movement, making sure that we're in the right alignments. It could be enhancing their performance. Let's say they're a golfer and they're working on improving their swing. So just making sure it's tailored to each individual, but with those 3 things in mind.
Wow. So very highly individualized, even though there are 3 pillars, it sounds kind of systematized. It's very, very personalized is what you're explaining.
Yes.
Cool. Let's talk about stress reduction for a second. You said the first pillar there is stress management. Are there any tips, one or 2 or 3 tips that you could give the listening audience that they can do right now to start reducing their stress? And I know that's kind of loaded, because as a coach, we feel like we got to know our clients, but just in general terms, are there 1 or 2 or 3 things that you see that really are helpful for people to reduce stress?
Number one thing is checking in with their physical awareness. And I do this all the time. I know I mentioned this last time, is, rolling your shoulders back, checking in with your body and your tension points. So that's important to me. And nourishing your body
Mm,
and with really, really powerful ingredients that are going to light you up inside too. And then the other thing is emotional awareness.
mm,
So checking in with your brain, journaling. I do this all the time, and it really helps me know exactly where my headspace is.
mm. That's awesome. Do you find, as an expert, that there's an intricate connection between the physical affecting the mental and the mental affecting the physical? Um,
Oh, 100%. I think that's why I got so interested in it, because when I was teaching fitness, I always saw some sort of emotional connection. There might have been a
mm,
movement that triggered something for someone, like my
yeah,
hamstrings shaking so much.
mm,
Your body's talking to you for a
mm,
reason.
interesting. And have you ever worked with clients that, let's say they're new to you and they come in and they're just one ball of just knotted up muscles? They have knots all in their shoulder blades and in their
Mhm.
neck and down their back and just everywhere. Do you ever have clients like that?
100%. Yeah. And it could be, with fitness, or I notice it too when I'm on a discovery call with someone
Mm,
for stress management coaching and their shoulders are at their
is up here.
ears.
Yeah.
And, I start to ask them these questions. And then slowly, like once they realize, like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be nice. That would be great to, make
Yeah.
time for myself. I see the shoulders just,
Yeah.
releasing their body language too.
Yeah. Do you find that, and I don't know the answer to this, but do you find that maybe the in some instances the people that are kind of knotted up like that, they're really tight, they don't have that body awareness and that emotional awareness?
Yeah, they're always interconnected for sure. And I do notice as time goes on, if they have chronic headaches, like that starts to lighten away when they start believing in themselves. And then
Mm,
all this tension that have been causing maybe the chronic headaches, that starts to release. And then
mm,
they're more open to, okay, let me journal and see what's going on and
mm.
what my next step should be.
So do you think there's a script that they're playing in their mind, that's that negative talk that's affecting this in some way?
100%. I don't know. It doesn't matter where you could be, a 9 to 5 person, you could be a CEO of a company. It's all the same in that sense.
Mm,
But everyone always has fears or limiting beliefs that they're trying to get through.
mm.
So it's challenging them to take a look inward and see what's really going on inside and what can they let go of, what fears, and start living in the moment.
Interesting. Do you find that difficult, or do you find that some of your clients find that difficult, to let go of that, to face that fear, that unknown?
Yeah, I feel that. So I have a 4 month program. And so I feel like the very first month is the most challenging for them
Mm,
because they're just getting in touch with themselves. They
mm,
actually made the investment and took the time to be like, okay, I'm going to get asked a bunch of questions and have to deal with the answers, and
mm,
and hearing them come out of their mouths when they say something negative about themselves is an eye opener for them, because I'll literally ask, did you just hear what you said? And then they're like, whoa, I never realized that. I never realized I felt that way about myself.
wow.
I want to change that.
And how do you see, because I don't know the answer to this. How do you see that trickle down into, say, their physical output when they're exercising? Does it affect that?
Well, so it's interesting that you say that, because I decided to add an additional program. So if someone wants to work once a week fitness and then once a week coaching, they
Mm,
have that. So I have seen that with a couple of my clients. Tremendous growth with that,
mm,
because they now are more in touch with their bodies. Like I had one client that had always had knee pain, and then we started coaching in addition to the training, and she said my knee pain's gone away. I
wow.
haven't been having that, and I don't know how to necessarily identify that except that I know she's more in touch with, her sleep patterns. I know she's more in touch with what she does in the morning. She's just more present. So that was an interesting connection I've seen recently.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's talk about brain gut connection, because I know my audience, and I know they'll probably be sitting on the edge of their seat. A lot of my audience that has followed me for a while have heard me talk about this, but I think it's sometimes better to hear it from another expert. Talk to us about gut-brain connection. Just give us a mind dump. What do you know, and what do you know that people have to get a handle on in order to achieve this healing place, this wellness space?
Yeah, well, I think it was from my own personal journey too. I noticed that my stomach would feel in knots at certain times of the day. I would also feel a little bit bloated, and I never knew why. I just was like, it has to be. I'm eating all the right foods. I don't understand. It just something has to be wrong with me. And then I noticed, okay, I'm going to write down everything that's going on in my body during these times that I feel it, and identify what might be causing it. So I would journal, and I realized at night, if I had heavy meals, of course I was stuffed, right? In the mornings, if I didn't eat much, of course I would get a headache. It was just starting to get in touch with what's triggering the sensations in my body, the negative triggers, and how do I get rid of these patterns. So once I was able to identify it, I would switch up where nutrition went. I never ate extremely poorly, except for what I say is my guilty pleasure of hot Cheetos. Just like once a blue moon, I just need my hot Cheetos, and that doesn't seem to go away as much as I try. But I've been able to adjust. Maybe I'm going to have a big breakfast, and then as the day goes on, maybe at night it's not as big of a meal, but something that still nourishes me and fills me.
Awesome. In our pre-interview time together, there were some interesting phrases that you mentioned. One phrase was getting out of your own head. You said this helped bring you to a better place to serve others. What are some ways that you might suggest that listeners can get out of their own head?
Yeah, so regarding getting out of your own head, it starts saying the thing you want to do and flip and do it. So if you want to go and write a show, write a show. Want a book, write a book. If you want to go and see your favorite artist in a concert, go see that artist. And if you want to meet that artist, figure out how. There are always little action steps you can take to get there. Even if you fail miserably, right? You'll learn from it, and you only get stronger. And also then that fear that you've had of it will just dissipate because you took that chance.
Awesome. Thanks. Another phrase, and we talked about the brain gut connection, but you specifically said to stimulate the brain gut connection. Were you talking about that from the standpoint of what you mentioned earlier, in that just being mindful and understanding what you're doing to your gut that could be causing some of these issues, or are there some other things around that word stimulate and stimulate your brain gut connection?
Yeah, so I feel when you are stimulating your brain gut connection, what comes into play is actually, once you know exactly what irritates it, now you have to rebuild your gut. So how are you going to rebuild your gut? How are you going to stimulate your brain to help rebuild your gut? So I made sure that I was like, okay, well, I have to switch some things around. And I do this with my clients, like let's play around and see what works well for you, whether it's a big meal, smaller meal, or just adding, maybe you need to add broccoli, something else, try a new food and see if that like makes your brain light up. So everything is connected.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cause I can think of a few people that might be thinking, oh, I can stimulate the brain gut connection. Just give me some chocolate,
Well, you can have dark chocolate. That's
Yeah, yeah,
perfect,
yeah.
but not a whole
Absolutely.
bar.
Absolutely. Just not the whole bar.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the problem we all have, is stopping at the one little square, right?
totally.
Yeah. The last phrase that caught my eye was the phrase functional fitness practices. Uh, what does this mean? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I like to work from a standpoint of let's go with the basic movements, squat, a lunge, a press, and see where your body moves
Mm,
versus I'm going to give you a high intensity interval training workout from the first time I meet you, which
mm,
I've actually seen happen, and that really enrages me. I
yeah.
want to make sure I'm coming of a place of service, and wherever that person will
Mm,
be, then we'll build from there.
yeah.
And I do have other classes that I have group classes, but I would never put someone into one of those unless they feel confident enough to do that.
Right.
So I always I always have a beginner class too. I always come a place of let's break down the movements.
So again, it's going back to that individualized care, that custom tailored care of meeting the person where they are in the movements that they're able to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Cool. 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 That's awesome. Thanks for sharing those insights. I want to switch gears a little bit and just talk about impact. In your professional opinion, what kind of positive impact would you say that these insights that you've shared with us have had on the lives of clients that you work with? And if, of course, don't mention any names, but if you want to use a case example or anything like that, please share that, because I think there's value in understanding the impact of what these things can do for you.
Yeah, I think what I've seen from people is their willingness to try new things versus being stuck in their ways for so long, because I'm never trying to push anyone to do something that's out of their zone of genius, to be honest with you. They are amazing human beings. They just need a little bit of a reminder
Mm,
and giving them new activities to do. Like I had one client who was just kind of sick of the whole COVID thing, and she was like, well, what can we do? What would be fun? And I knew that there were a bunch of activities that they could do together. And I just was like, well, what do you guys love? And once I heard that, started sending them suggestions.
mm.
And one of my favorites is make a Michelin star restaurant course meal.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was something that brought them so much joy in a moment together that they found fun, because they didn't know how to do that, and they failed, and then they started succeeding, and it was a fun process. So it was great to see too how this was impacting a relationship. One of my other clients was like, oh, we just had beets tonight, Sarah. I've never had beets in my life, but now we love them, and we're going to put them in everything. So it's just fun to see where they go. A mindset shift that I see too is that they can be at a place
Mm,
that they can move on from trauma in their past, whether that's with career or personal. And I'm always amazed how they open up and share things with me. And I always make sure, obviously go see a therapist if you need, real help, but just the little habitual changes. And
mm,
then they'll share, like, this has had an impact on my relationship. This has had an impact on, my overall health. I went to my functional medicine doctor, and he said that my stress levels are down, and hearing things like that just makes me want to serve more.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You brought out the concept of, people confiding in you, and you're saying, like, I can help you with the little bitty things. You need to go see your therapist. And I think some of the most, I think because you're working with somebody so intimately, personal trainers in so many cases, and health coaches, wellness coaches, they do in a lot of ways become that sounding ear, and that listening ear and sounding board, so to speak, for a client. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Right.
Other than what we've talked about, are there any last nuggets or wisdom or knowledge that you'd like to share with our listening audience?
I would just say if you're in that spot, if you're feeling stuck, don't be afraid to ask for help, whether that's with a therapist or a coach or a trainer, because you can make an investment towards your future, and you can get out of that stuck place, even if it's a tiny step in the right direction. It will impact your life.
You mean to tell me that it's not a cost, it's an investment?
Yes, it's an investment.
How is it an investment?
I look at it this way, and I will go back to my father. I feel if there was someone that was like you or myself for my dad, I feel he would still be on this planet. And it's very important to take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, then how are you going to be able to open yourself to anyone else?
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, you're spot on. It's an investment. It's not a cost. And I don't know. Do you find clients in your neck of the woods that they kind of view it as a cost, and it interferes with that mindset, interferes with them being able to get the help that they need?
I haven't heard that in a while now, thankfully, but I do hear I don't have the time for myself. And that just actually, that hurts me more to hear for them, because I know that they're in need, and a lot of people are in need now. And if we just gave ourselves some time, even quiet time every day, we would be able to communicate better with our loved ones. We would be able to have more meaningful conversations, and also to have the ability to just relax and maybe not be so stuck in the media world.
Yeah. And in a way, we were talking about cost and investment in a financial way, but time also can be viewed as either a cost or an investment. And it sounds like, even though you may not be hearing that as from a financial perspective, people are saying, no, it costs me too much of my time, I can't do that.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's an investment. No, we've got to carve out this time and invest that time to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. What projects are you working on right now? Tell us how people can work with you if they're so inclined to do so. I know we work and live in a virtual world, and you're a little in the northern territories, but where it's cold and you get a lot of snow. But
it's freezing and cold, and why do I put myself through this every year? I ask these questions. But no, I do. I love the city of Chicago. It's beautiful, and I get to stare out at the Sears Tower every day from my living room. So I'm very thankful for that.
awesome.
I would say that you can reach out to me if you ever have any questions. Literally on my Instagram, the easiest place I respond, Sarah Alysse Coaching. But if you're interested in, ever hopping on a call, you can go through the Instagram or my page, livewellenhanceyou.com, and book a complimentary 30-minute conversation with me. And I can get to know you and see, if we're a good fit, but also you can take a class and risk-free and just, start with breathing and see where you go from there.
And that's www.livewellenhanceyou.com.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Good. And on Instagram, it's at Sarah Alysse Coaching.
Yes.
And that Alysse is spelled Alysse.
Yes.
Sarah, traditional spelling, Sarah. At Sarah Alysse Coaching. And she's given you permission to direct message her, guys. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Reach out to her. She's opened that up. So good deal. Good deal. So as usual, you know, I love to end the show on a serious question note. So I will end with this question. If you could be invisible for a day, what would you do?
I would hop on a plane and go to every country that possibly I couldn't see, whether it be, Russia, or like go to the Egyptian pyramids and hang out there and get a closer eye view. So definitely travel and explore.
Travel and explore. Awesome. I love it. Love it. Love it. Sarah, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for your time. The wisdom you've shared with us today, again, it's been invaluable.
Thank you.
As we wrap up, I'd like to make our listeners aware of something new that we're doing here at the Genesis Zone Show. If you'd like to ask a question and have it answered live on my Friday in the Zone segment, then go to www.briangBrown.com/question. Click the button in the middle of the page to leave us your question, and we will get back with you, answer it live on the air. So how cool is that? Tune in tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time for our In the Zone segment, where I'll be recapping today's expert interview with Sarah Alysse. I'll be sharing how the nuggets and wisdom that Sarah shared with us from this interview fit into the Genesis Zone advantage. Answering any questions that you might have and exploring other topics of interest. Most informed, most trusted, and most grateful you spent this time with us today. Until next time, stay in the zone. I'm Dr. Brian Brown.